This hand was actually very fascinating. I don't play hands for this size that are this interesting that often, and I think this one definitely qualifies. I felt like I had a good grasp throughout the entire hand on every street, and I was actually fairly confident at the time that this bluff was going to get through. And just from the beginning, though, I think there's a key element that I went back and watched it, and I noticed that I was talking to Jungle while I was playing the hand pre-flop. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I think I was distracted, and had I not been talking pre-flop, might have changed some of my decisions post-flop. I said, like, I'm not worried about you not having it. I'm worried about me dusting off another 100K and not adding, you know what I mean? Like, I'm worried about me. Like, I 100% guarantee that you would pay me back. I'm not worried about that at all. I didn't realize that he was from the middle blind. We're playing 100, 200,
Oh, right.
400, 800. There's an $800 straddle. Right. And a $200 ante. I didn't realize that he actually called from the $400 blind. So, just from there, like not calling from the last blind, the straddle, the 800. If I had noticed that, I just think that like if he called from the last blind, which was rampage in the 800, his range there is way wider. Just him calling from the middle blind, I think it's definitely more suited hands that he would cold call there and stronger ranges. With that said, like I was a little bit distracted pre-flop. So I raised and he just flat called, rampage folded, his heads up. Flop came queen of clubs, seven of clubs, king of hearts. I had jack of spades, nine of diamonds, and I just had a weak gut shot to the 10. And even if I hit the 10, like you can't rule out the fact that he has some ace jack sometimes, right? So it's not even the nuts. He checked. I made a standard C bet on this board. The board definitely favors my range as a pre-flop raiser way more. I have all the nutted hands, and he check raised. And this is when the hand got really interesting, is him check raising on this board. I think him as the caller pre-flop, game theory wise, like most players will not be choosing to raise on this flop. I just think he'll be facing a lot of re-raises from me again, just because of the range advantage. He can't have like some sets of sevens, some two pairs, but even those hands, they'll be very happy to just check call and let me continue bluffing and him just bluff catching. So when he decided to raise on this flop, I actually had him weighted towards a lot of flush draws. I think he wouldn't raise too many top pairs here with our stacks behind. I thought the best course of action was to put another bet on the flop and take the initiative. I didn't think calling was going to be profitable often enough to try to hit my hand. So I put in a raise, and then when he just called the flop bet, I was pretty confident he had clubs.
Now you talk with me during the hand? That's the first time, yeah?
Depends on the turn.
Huh?
Depends on the turn.
Me?
It depends on
depends on the turn.
Yeah.
So this turn you talk?
We'll see.
I'm happy. Right. Just talk with me, okay? It was not nice when you were not talking with me. Right. I was thinking it was personal. And so when the turn came to six of spades and he checked, I decided to pot it to try to fold out all his club draws. Once he check called the 40K, the pot size bet on the turn, now I was thinking, okay, I think definitely has some king X of clubs, ace X of clubs. To be able to call this turn, he has some type of hand that can still maybe win at showdown. Let's say he has like just a random club draw that doesn't have a high card, like a 9 high flush draw or an 8 high flush draw. He's never check calling the turn because then he's just calling to try to hit his hand. Without the initiative and out of position, like he has no plan. Like what is his play going to be, right? Like he's never going to get value for club clumps, and well, he just checks and I just check, right? And so I think he's a smart enough player to never check call this turn without some type of showdown value with clubs. And so I had him pinned on king X of clubs, 6X of clubs, or ace X of clubs. I was not blocking any of those hands. The river came the ace of hearts, and I actually thought this was a pretty decent card for me to keep bluffing on. Like obviously giving up on all clubs. I think this river with the ace, yes, he could have jack 10 of clubs. That was one specific hand that I was very worried about, because that was one of the hands that on the turn it just has too much equity to fold. So those are one of the hands that probably doesn't have much showdown that would just choose a check call by him. But that was the only combo. But I did have a jack in my hand. And so this is what makes this hand very interesting theory-wise, is that we both actually have jacks and we're both blocking jack 10. But him specifically is blocking the jack 10 of clubs. So when he raised all in, he knows that I can't have the jack 10 of clubs. He's worried that I can have jack 10, right? I think we both had similar thought process on the river. We both had the jack in our hand, which is what made this hand what it is. Most players would not choose to bluff raise here with the king. I think he has significant showdown value. I probably wouldn't be doing this with a naked ace with this sizing. I'd overbet 150. I think it was like a 20K over the size of the pot. And I just think that him being able to check raise all in here definitely showed a lot of heart, and something that I'm not used to seeing from most of the players that I play with for this amount. I'm not saying for like 50K, 100K. I'm talking about like for
he had 254,000 before he shoved all in, and the sick part was that it wasn't even that much more. He really put his trust in me in knowing that I could be able to hand read the situation if I had a real hand here. Like, let's say I had king queen or ace king or ace queen, or the hands I'm supposed to have, right, that I'm trying to represent. Like, he really is putting his trust in me as a poker player to be able to hand read the situation, understand that he has very few bluffs here.
Dealer's cracking jokes.
All in.
All in. All in? What?
How much?
One card.
How much for bluff?
Show one card.
Everybody give me 1,000, I show the bluff.
I would be throwing up if I had those hands. I had ace king, kings, queens, But I think just the pot size, I think it's a little bit reckless, Like, let's be realistic. Like, the pot is massive. I would have to call up another 100K to win like $1 million, right? And so it's reasonable to think that I would just call it off. Exactly. So while I think his bluff was a great move, I think it was a little bit reckless to just assume that I'm willing to fold all my strong made hands here is pretty crazy. Yeah. If anything, I learned how to play more effectively against these type of players. And like, it goes back to what I said in the beginning. I think it's really important to not give information to someone that's actually looking for them. And it's obvious that they're talking in hands not to be social or to be funny, or he likes to be center of attention. He enjoys it. But at the same time, like, players like this have made a lot of their money from exploiting players that are giving away tells like that. And I think if I just didn't speak at all, he would have had much less confidence to make such a play. He's never played with me, right? And so he obviously was able to pick up something. And I think me minimalizing those tells verbally and physically would have worked out much better in this hand. Looking back, I'm still pretty happy with the play that I made. I think I can't be results oriented. I think this river is still one that if I had to repeat again, whether it's at a 5-10 game or 400-800 game like we were playing, nothing would change in my decision making. I think I'm still happy with how I thought about the hand on the East Street and the reasoning behind what I did. I just think that it's tougher, definitely for sure, emotionally because of how large it was.